Hello. Okay, some guys who won the Nobel Prize for this whole thing really started animal behavior. Nico, of course, which we've already talked about, which asks the four questions about ultimate versus proximate cause. He'd probably be the father of this, just because of these four questions are really fundamental in how we think about animal behavior. Then you have Konrad Lorenz. You see this guy a lot, a picture of him and little ducks. There's a picture in your book. I'll show it to you in a minute. It's a picture of him. He came up with imprinting, this idea that animals imprint on the first thing they see and they assume that's their mother and they do what they say. So there's this really famous picture of Lorenz walking with these ducklings, and he basically, they were like, he was their dad, and he flew with them, and he migrated with them, and they did whatever. And so this was really foundational. And he really spent a lot of time talking about influences of this imprinting and influences of like even transfusing just a little bit of blood, and how one bad blood can that can be imprinted and can cause terrible things. And this is where the story gets unpleasant, because this dude was a prominent member of the Nazi Party. You can see where this is going. Not good places. It's not going good places. His science, his ideas were used and twisted into this human idea that we need to cleanse the human race, and so it didn't go super good. Apparently he's real sorry about that. He was never implicated. I mean, mostly they were just ideas. As far as they know, he was never actually doing any experiments on humans, but certainly the experiments were patterned after much of his work. But anyway, he won the Nobel Prize, and Carl von Fritsch he's the guy that came up with the waggle dance. He found out that bees have color vision, and he also found out that bees communicate through a little waggle dance. You might want to learn it because it's pretty neat. So these three guys shared a Nobel Prize, really about animal behavior. And here is their picture, just in case you want to know what they look like. So there's Carl von Fritz, the Lorenz, and there's Nikolai. All of them died in the mid 80s. About here they are. If there's two of them, so they were actually friends. They actually knew one another. And this is the famous Konrad Lorenz picture. Here's the picture of them following him like a father. And he did lots of research with this. And then here's modern day. They're imprinting. This is how they're actually imprinting and getting animals to follow them. So that is our history lesson for today. That's free. You're welcome. Okay, back to biology, friends. The only two things that matter in life to animals are basically, why does it do that? I cannot get it to stop doing that, and it's so incredibly annoying. Okay, the only two things that matter. Here we go. The only two things that matter are eating and reproducing. This is not a theology class, people. I'm not suggesting you live your life like this. I'm just saying, if you're looking at animals, the questions you're going to want to ask is, why are they doing that? Okay, it's got to be for survival somehow, eating and not getting eaten, or it's got to be about reproducing. Those are the only two motivations that animals have. So eating. Maybe they have adapted a new way to do this. Maybe they can eat more efficiently, faster. They can eat food that they haven't eaten before. This is a motivation for migration, right? There's no more food here. It's going to get cold here. There's going to be snow here. Or we've eaten all this grass. We've got to move. We're a herd of something, and we've eaten all the grass, and so now we have to go somewhere else. Or it's starting to get really cold and the grass is dying, and so we need to migrate somewhere warmer where there's live grass, right? Optimal foraging theory. This is an interesting theory. We might play with this in class if we have time. Is it really worth, if you've ever gone somewhere and gotten crab legs and they're like really, really tiny crab legs, and you end up having to pick the stuff out of the crab legs, and you're like, that was totally not worth it. I just spent an hour getting like this much food out of something. And good, I love crab legs, but sometimes it's not worth it. People feel this way about different food. Shrimp, soft shell crab, different seafood that you really have to work at it, right? So people are like, that's totally not worth it. That's not enough food. Animals feel like this too. This is optimal foraging theory. Okay, how much work is that going to be for me to eat that bug and pick out, if you've ever eaten a bug, I've eaten a Thai bug. Even a bug, you have to pull it out. And it's not very much meat in there. And so animals are like, animals really do that too. They think, okay, how long is this going to take me to catch the animal, to kill the animal, to process the animal, to eat the animal, is it going to be worth it for the amount of meat or nourishment that the animal will provide for me? So this is the ultimate. This is an actual theory, and they also have to take into account. Okay, if I want to go, if I'm something, a deer or something, and I go eat food out in the middle of the field, I'm more likely to be a predator. So you always have to, there's this balance of optimum foraging, like how much energy is it going to take me? And I know that sounds lazy, but you're looking at, they probably have to catch that prey. Like, how worth it is it for me to chase a bunny around all day to get not a ton of meat, and then I have to process all that meat and do it, and I've actually used the amount of energy to catch the rabbit that then I'm going to get from the rabbit. So it's an actual theory. It's not just like a theory of animals being lazy. It's an actual thing. Okay, so eating, important. The second thing, reproducing, right? It's all about getting girls to like you. Mostly girls get to make the decision because it's more energetically costly to house the young or have eggs. So typically the female chooses the male. If you have a behavior that girls like, then you get more girls and you have more young, and you have more young with that behavior. So if it's somehow genetic, if it's somehow you're a brighter color or you're bigger or you've learned a song or something and girls like it, then you're going to have more offspring, and those offspring are going to have that behavior if it's an actual genetic behavior. So this is the just reproduction. Bowerbirds, okay, these are the birds, they collect trash. Yeah. And apparently chicks like it. Girl bowerbirds love a really trashed house. Like, the more trash you have in your house, the more girls are going to love you. And the girls will go and like check out all the trash houses to see how much shiny trash they have collected. And then girls will stop by their house, and the male bowerbirds will do a little dance. And the one who has the nicest house and the best dance gets the girls. So this over time has become a thing where bowerbirds, at a certain point, it triggers that it's a certain time in the year, typically winter, because you want to have the babies in the spring. So sometime in the fall, they're like, man, I need to start building a house. And they start collecting shiny trash, and they build a house, and the girls come over and they do a dance, and then everybody pairs up, and then there's baby bowerbirds in the spring who are being taught how to collect the best trash to get the best girls. So this is a reproduction behavior. So in all of the examples I'm going to give you, you have to tell me, what is the behavior? Why do they do that? Do they do that to eat, to protect themselves from predation, or to reproduce? Those are really the only behaviors that they have. Okay, it is very important that, again, you have to balance all this stuff out with not getting eaten, because that's a pretty high priority. If you're a mule deer, you have to risk being eaten by a mountain lion if you go after food in an open field. So you have to, again, how hungry are you? Are you really that hungry? Because you could get eaten by a mountain lion. If you go out into the middle to graze, you're way more likely to get eaten. So you have to kind of think about how hungry are you. The same thing with attracting females. The brightest color, typically when the males are a different color, they look different than the females. The brightest color gets you the most girls. But guess what else the brightest color gets you? Most attention from people who are going to eat you. So, you know what? That pretty girl, she's awfully pretty, but maybe I'll just like not be that colorful and not get eaten. So they're just weighing these costs all the time. If the brightest color gets you the best number of girls, but you will also attract the most number of predators. And over time, what's fascinating about these studies is over time the population shifts. So guppies are a perfect example. Guppies in a tank with no predator fish will be these bright, fascinating colors. But if you put guppies in a tank with predators, over generations, they'll become dull colors so that they don't attract predators. So these are fascinating. I think these are fascinating studies because they're typically done over a few generations. So it's not like we're hypothesizing what happened thousands of years ago. We're like, no, look, when we do this, when we change the environment, when we alter the stimulus, they don't do it anymore. Okay, what really messes with this entire thing is altruism. And you'll hear this in Christian circles. This is one of those apologetic evidences for God. William Hamilton says the overall cost has to be greater than the cost to the individual. So sometimes people will do something, not people, not humans, no. Sometimes animals will do something to actually help out someone else. Like, very often lionesses will help their sisters raise their young. Very often, bees obviously work as a colony. Naked mole rats work as a colony. Meerkats work as a colony. There are some advantages to this. One of them is females who help rear their nieces and nephews, for example, are better mothers. So when it's their turn to have children, they've already had some practice in how to doing it. And then their sister, who already has adult kids, right? Her kids are grown, also has practice. So it tends to be more successful the second time. So there are explanations, there are examples of this. There are things that they're trying to explain away this idea because remember I said it's got to be an advantage. If it's not an advantage, and it's all about fitness. So if you're not producing your own kids, what would be the advantage of taking care of your sister's kids? This is called inclusive fitness. And this is the idea that you can help out your brother or sister, and especially if they're related to you. It's somehow passing on your genes. And the more related they are to you, the more likely you are to help them. It's kind of an unpleasant theory, but it happens. Again, you have to understand Darwin's theory of fitness, that the whole idea is to have lots of young with your genes, and the second best thing that you can do is have genes that are very close to yours. Okay, so a fixed, I don't actually, do I want this? Yes. A fixed action pattern is a sequence of unlearned behavior that acts directly on a stimulus. They're unchangeable. These are just a few definitions. Fixed action patterns are a sequence of unlearned behavior that acts directly on a simple stimulus. A fixed action pattern is triggered by an external stimuli called a sign stimulus. What has become the classic example of sign stimulus is the stickleback fish, and that was the example that I gave you before. And then here it is right here if you want to look at it more. Okay, let me explain to you what this is for you to discover. So the rest of this gets to be your adventure. Yay! And I'm giving you 20 points on your exam, on your final. You get 20 points on your final for turning this in. So do it. I want to know the answer to Nico's 4 questions, the how and the why. Why do they do it? How do they do it? To all of these guys in your book. They're pretty easy. I mean, you can do it as a group. It's not really that hard. Why is that fiddler crab waving? Tell me why. I want to know. I kind of gave you the stickleback fist here. What about the circa annual rhythms of bird migration? What makes them migrate? Fruit. What do fruit flies do on a date? This is what I want to know. If you're a fruit fly and you're going on a date, what's the expectation? What do you need to bring with you? What do you need to know? The waggle dance. There might be opportunities for us to actually do that in class. Oh, it's so frustrating that it does that. What else do we have? Mice, minnows. What happens to California mice? Oh, I really want you to know this one. What happens when California mice, which are aggressive naturally, are raised with white-footed mice, which are not aggressive? What is it? Learned behavior or is it genetic? What about our California mice? How does the female digger wasp find her nest? Blue jays and monarch butterflies. What happens when a blue jay eats a monarch butterfly, and what does he learn about that experience? Sparrow songs. How do sparrows learn their songs? Vervet monkeys. It's nothing if you don't talk about monkeys. So tell me a little bit about what are the advantages and disadvantages of monogamous relationships. How does mate choice by females contribute to evolution? Why does the female usually get to choose? Guppy mate choice. Kangaroo boxing. Why? Why do kangaroos box? It's super fun. This one I really, really want you to know because number 16, western garter snakes and banana slugs. Where's the only place practically in the world that they have banana slugs, right? The redwoods, which is our neighbors. I have a banana slug t-shirt. I love banana slugs. So western garter snakes and banana slugs. What do our garter snakes eat in Redding, and what do they eat in Eureka? I kind of told you that they eat banana slugs, but I still want you to know that information. Naked mole rats, because they're gross, and I want you to like really be like, naked mole rats are gross. They just look gross. Okay, this is the last one that I really want you to think about. This question is going to be worth more, and I want you to actually think about it. We'll talk about it a bit in class if I have time, but I want you to really think using your head, like